Aye, shepherd's pie, greetings from the Philippines. Welcome back to the channel for a walk and a talk on a very special day. I am taking my little doggy Case, if you can see him there, out on his first walk. And now we're not alone. We are with my good friend and neighbour Greg and his monster there, Tarzan, which is an American pit bull. So you've got quite a bit of a size difference between the two of them. Give it a few more months though, and my money's on Case. Right, well, what I'd like to talk about today is
2 hours later.
Well, it is several hours later now, and I am back in our subdivision. The walk went well. It just wasn't easy vlogging with the dogs, so I thought I would wait until I got back and have a little wander around the subdivision, because it probably demonstrates some of the points of the topic I'm about to discuss better than the area in which we were walking. A classic example being the rubbish. And I'm not sure if you can hear it, the noise. Someone's got their karaoke going in full bloom. I will warn you now in advance, there will be dogs. This is the Philippines, and that's what I want to talk about today. Does anyone care in the Philippines? Does anyone care? Is it a place where nobody cares? And before I offend anyone, if you are the kind of person who is likely to be offended by what I'm about to say, I suggest you stop watching now and open the fridge door before you melt, because I would humbly suggest if this video offends you, you are a snowflake. Now, I am not for one moment suggesting that it is a land where no one cares. I had a conversation a couple of months back when we first rescued the puppy with our landlord, who now lives in Thailand. Had to come clean, tell him we had a puppy. Wasn't sure what his views would be on it. And I said one of the things I found hardest about living in the Philippines was all the dogs that weren't cared for, the unloved animals. To which he said, the thing about the Philippines is nobody cares. See? Dogs everywhere. This is why I'm making a video around the subdivision. And that got me thinking, do people really not care in the Philippines? Is it really a place where no one cares? And I'm not going to say it is. I'm not going to criticise the Philippines. I'm not going to say people do care here or people don't care here. It's just something that's stuck in my mind for a while, because it's very easy to come to the conclusion that they don't care. That the people here really don't care. I can't think of a better way to say it, because lots of things happen here. And when I had that conversation with him, when he said it's a knock country, he called it, I'd never heard that expression before, a knock country, a country where no one cares. It was quite close to when the guy had a heart attack that I made a video on, where it would be reasonable to conclude that none of the ambulance staff or the doctors involved that night did actually care, because they didn't bother to phone ahead to the hospital or, you know, make sure they were ready for his arrival, even when they got turned away from the first 2 hospitals. So it would be easy to conclude that none of the staff cared. The fact that the hospital turned him away. Did they care? Well, obviously not too much, because they turned him away. But why is that? Why does no one care in the Philippines? That's why I want to do it around here. You heard the noise of the dogs barking. You saw the rubbish on the floor. Rubbish here everywhere. You know, and this is one of the better subdivisions, would you believe? Rubbish doesn't get collected. People don't seem to care about that. People don't seem to care about the excessive dog barking or the number of dogs. Those dogs are barking primarily because they're tied up to posts. They're on ropes or they're in tiny cages. No one seems to care about that. You know, in most Western countries, that would be a case of animal abuse. In the UK, you get the RSPCA round the visitors saying you can't keep an animal like that. So it's easy to come to the conclusion that nobody cares in the Philippines. But I do question this, and I'm not going to come to any conclusions here. I'm just sharing my thoughts because I think it's important, because the apathy that exists in terms of rubbish collection, the stray dogs, the noise, etc., is going to put a lot of people off coming here. If you're someone who's quite anal about that, maybe anal's a bit strong, but if you're someone who rubbish bothers you, if noise bothers you, if stray dogs everywhere and unloved animals and things bother you, then the Philippines is probably not the place for you. But I do wonder, do people really not care? Or have people come to the conclusion, don't really walk around the subdivision much, so I'm probably going to come to a few dead ends and have to turn around again. Do people really not care? Or is it a case that they feel they can't do anything about it? Or is it a case that they care, but they have other priorities? Or is it cultural? I mean, this is a country that was basically under Spanish rule for several hundred years, then American ownership for a little while. You know, not going to say anything about the British. I'm not casting any aspersions on any empires or any cultural people or whatever, but it would not be surprising to find, as I have over here, the Protestant work ethic is not very strong here in the Philippines. It's not very high priority. There doesn't seem to be a lot of people who take a lot of pride in their work or are overly motivated to work. But as I say, it was part of the Spanish Empire, which is a Catholic country and a completely different culture. The culture of fiestas, or siestas rather. So that's probably not too surprising. Not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying, to someone from a Western culture which stem from England, for example, or France, then, you know, it's quite unusual to see a certain sense of apathy. So I'm not going to go down the empire route or whatever, but I did have someone in the comments recently who was saying it was very similar in terms of the things not being fixed or done here. He'd seen it in Latin America, which again might come down to a cultural hangover from the Spanish Empire. Who knows? Not trying to offend anyone of Spanish origins, I'm just saying, it's strange. Dogs everywhere, wild dogs. It is the joys of the Philippines. Will I ever post this video because of the noise? I think I will, because it demonstrates what I'm getting at. I think people do care over here. The longer I've been here, the more I have heard stories. For example, Ellen's family. Apparently a couple of her aunties, they really don't like the noise. They often complain about their neighbours and things too, making noise and having parties and things like that to the local barangay captain. I think that does go on. So clearly some people do care about the noise pollution. I started playing pickleball a few months ago with a few friends, and because we started playing pickleball and we got on the old pickleball circuit, it came to our attention that they've recently banned pickleball after 10 o'clock. Don't know if that's the whole of Philippines or just Dumaguete or Negros, but you can't play pickleball after 10 o'clock because of the noise. So clearly some people do care about noise and things. When we first moved in here, one of the things we liked about it was the frequent refuse collection, the rubbish collection, or as Americans call it, the trash. Very easy to get it collected here. Might not look about like it now when you've seen some of the rubbish lying around, but they certainly empty the bins on our roads pretty regularly. But our landlord did tell us when he moved in they hadn't had a collection for about 3 weeks. So he had gone to the municipality in the city centre, Bekong, and he had complained or asked one of the head honchos who was in charge why the rubbish hadn't been collected. And the guy was very accommodating, and within 2 hours a refuse collection truck had come out and collected it. And then, to be fair, all the time we've been here, apart from a couple of weeks ago, the rubbish collection's been fine. So clearly some people did care. Clearly the guy who was responsible for it did care. I have come to the conclusion, rightly or wrongly. I mean, that's why I'm making this video. I'm not gonna, you know, say I'm right or I'm wrong or whatever. I don't know. It's just my observations. You know, it's a bit of content, but I'd be very interested to hear what other people say, because, as I said, when I have mentioned things as being issues before, I've had some comments saying, well, it's not your country, you know, you should expect this, or you shouldn't be here if you can't put up with that. And I've often said, you know, I'm not complaining. Sometimes I am. Sometimes I am a whinging pom. I'm merely letting people know about it, and I highlight the fact that I'm in a relationship with a Filipino, with Ellen. There is nothing that I have mentioned or highlighted as being an issue that she doesn't agree with. You know, the poor roads, you know, the infrastructure problems, the brownouts or whatever. I know lots of Filipinos who are considerably more pissed off with the situation than I am. So it's not a question of a Philippines culture they don't mind. A lot of Filipinos do. I think I have come to the conclusion, you see, people are going to say, what the hell are you living in this place for? It's a strange subdivision. There are certain parts you can come to where it's very quiet. Our street is very quiet. Since I've had the new dog, I've started taking him for walks around the subdivision. And yeah, some parts are little oases. Some parts have got some quite nice houses and things. Other parts, less so. Which again is you could say, the apathy of the Philippines. I mean, it seems that if someone, you know, moves in next to you and starts playing music and it bangs out, etc., you know, they seem to get away with it. You know, neighbours tend not to complain. But I'm not sure if that's that they don't care so much. I think it's probably more that I don't think they're very confrontational people over here. You know, I think they're a bit like the Thais. They try to avoid confrontation, so they tend to tolerate. I think it's very much a live and let live situation. You know, I was lamenting the fact to my landlord that no one seemed to care about the animals. You know, there were so many strays. Why didn't they, you know, introduce a policy of sterilising them and things, you know, get a grip of it? To which he said, no one cares. Now, he might be right, I might be wrong. I'm not saying he's not. It's just a topic for conversation. I tend to think some people do care. Some people do feed the dogs. I think some people are animal lovers over here. I think it's just a case of they're poor, the vast majority of people here. They don't think they can do anything about it. And a lot of the time, they've got more important things to worry about. That's a very nice house there. Talk about, you come down here, you've got some really nice houses. Big ones with land. I don't know if I can get down this bit down here, what's at the end of here, but there you go. This is our subdivision in all its glory. It's a strange place. No, I'm not going to be able to walk down the bottom now. I'm going to come back round again. Yeah, I think there's a large element of that. I think they have come to the conclusion over many years that there's not a lot they can do about it. That it is what it is. That you know, they put up with it. Doesn't mean they're necessarily happy about it. I don't know where I am now. I'm going to come back round here. I think I've wandered into people's land. I'm getting strange looks. Not what I wanted to do. But yeah, that is kind of the conclusion I'm coming to. Because to me, I say this is not a whinge. One of the things I like about the Philippines, I know it's going to sound strange, is the fact that no one cares about a lot of things, or no one seems to enforce a lot of things. You know, I like the sense of freedom over here. I like the sense you don't have to worry. I like the sense that, you know, the people in immigration just stamp your visa. You know, they're not interested as long as you are following the rules, crossing the dots, crossing the T's. You know, they don't care. They're quite happy to stamp your visa and things. The police over here, they're quite happy with the pier, certainly in Dumaguete, to go through the motions. Classic example now, I will get criticised for this, just being honest. I was driving the other day. I do not like, I mean, we've got Ellen's daughter staying with us at the moment, and I am quite, I bend anyway. You know, I do try and follow the rules. Won't take 3 on the scooter because I believe it was against the rules. I now know it is, but I didn't know at the time for certain. But I wouldn't take the 2 of them on the back of the scooter. But we went out for dinner the other night, and they went on a trike. They met me there. They couldn't get back. And I had the 2 helmets, I had 3 helmets, so I said, all right, I'll take you back, because I couldn't see another solution for it. You don't get many road stops along here. And we came back and there was a road stop, so I'm like, oh God. So I did what you do over here. I told them to get off the bike. I'd drive through the road, you know, a couple of 100 metres back. I would drive through the road stop, and I would pick them up the other side. That's what I did, except I stopped, and Ellen and Kayla walked through. They started talking to the police, and they were signalling me to come back. I thought, I can't believe this. How has she managed to screw this up? And I'm like, no, you come here. They're like, no, you come back. So I'm like, oh God, I'm going to get a ticket or something here. And I didn't want to take them on in the first place. I was driving very slowly. I know I'm going to get criticised by some people for doing this, but I did it. So anyway, I turned, went back, and expecting to get a ticket. And the police were just laughing, saying, why are you making these ladies walk in those shoes? You know, you should be a gentleman, take them home. So they got on the bike and we went through. So the police in the road stop, they didn't care. They said they were looking for someone. You know, they didn't care. You know, the fact that I shouldn't have had 2 people on the bike. They called me back and told me to pick them up and take them. You know, so rightly or wrongly, I like that aspect of the Philippines. You know, I do like the fact that, you know, a lot of people are going through the motions. I like the fact immigration, they don't probe too deeply. Because in Thailand, you know, yeah, there were rules and things. You could be ticking all the boxes, but I was always very polite, always bought gifts, you know, always did the thing. But I knew quite a few friends who went to get their visas extended at times, and they would go through the, you know, they get the 3rd degree. Even though everything was in place, they'd want this and that, and they'd want a translation of this, or they'd ask questions and things. You know, they would be investigating things, seemingly looking for a reason to not approve the visa. Never had that feeling over here, you know. So, and I think, you know, you say, well, why are you talking about that? I say, because I think it comes down to the fact that, you know, people don't seem to care over here. I think they just come and they do their job, they go through the motions. You know, it's just the way it is. You know, they're not going to be jobs worth, so we say. It's a lot less likely to get a job's worth over here, and that's part of the attraction of it. You know, I like the fact that it's so laid back. I find it hard to believe that people, you know, don't care about life over here. It certainly does appear to be cheap, in the sense that, you know, people die in ambulances and things like that, and you think the hospital didn't care, or the drivers didn't care. My own conclusion, I think they probably do care, but they've had such a tough life, they've got used to it. You know, it's doesn't seem much force for change in the Philippines. As I say, I'm not making any moral judgments on that. You know, there are aspects of the Philippines as a Westerner, it is very hard to see. There are other aspects of the Philippines that you think we could learn a little bit, just in the sense that, you know, just so much more laid back here in many ways. Trouble is, by being so laid back in certain aspects, I think they get trampled upon. You know, I'm sure the average Filipino, if you asked them and they thought there was a possibility of it, they would probably want change. I can't believe they wouldn't want better healthcare. I can't believe they wouldn't want better infrastructure, cheaper electricity, reliable electricity. I mean, that's what makes me laugh about some people that say, you know, if you can't accept the culture, if you can't that's not culture. You know, British culture is British culture. You know, in the 70s, when I was growing up, we had like a 4-day week, 3-day week. You know, we had brownouts, power cuts because of what was going on in the Gulf, funny enough. You know, when they closed the strait that time. You know, there were strikes, rubbish wasn't collected. That wasn't part of the British culture. People were very pissed off about that. Didn't last very long. So I can't, you know, always makes me laugh when people say, like, you know, when I make observations about the infrastructure and things like that, they say, oh, it's the culture. It's not the culture at all, what you're talking about. It's got nothing to do with the culture. It's to do with the crap infrastructure. But there you go. But anyway, yeah, look, if I didn't like the Philippines, I wouldn't be here. I do like the Philippines. Just saying, for a lot of people, it won't be the place for them because of the reasons I've stated. You know, and the trouble is, when you live here, you get used to it. I mean, it's like the homeless people, the beggars. When I first got here, I was shocked. You know, I found it very depressing. I wanted to help them. Now I find them quite annoying outside 7-Eleven and things, you know. The animals. We rescued a kitten, we rescued a puppy. I saw another kitten yesterday, a very small one. I hope its mother was somewhere. It looked like it needed help. You know, a few months ago I would have picked it up and taken it home. Now I'm like, I can't rescue everyone. I can't be going for that again. It's not fair on Ellen. I mean, there we have it, all dogs tied up, barking away. I mean, if that was the West, you would have your neighbour come round. You'd phone the police or someone, the RSPCA. They wouldn't put up with that. Do the neighbours that side not care? Or is it just live and let live? Seems to be the attitude in the Philippines. And without a doubt, the best thing about the Philippines, in my opinion, is the people. Which is why I struggle with the idea they don't care. I think they do. I think they're just tough under certain realities. You know, I think they've had such a tough upbringing in many ways that, you know, it's just the way it is. I think they've been let down by so many governments and politicians over the years that they just think it's the way it is, or the way it has to be. So many bloody dogs along here. I never realised there were so many dogs and things until I started walking the park. Because before then, I mean, you don't notice this when you drive by on your scooter. But yeah, I mean, this is a classic example. There's a woman in front of me. She's sweeping the road. You will see that a lot. Our neighbours will get up in the morning, the Filipinos, and they will sweep the road. And yet, you've got rubbish and blocks and bricks and things and crap all over the place. You know, strange, isn't it? You know, I would take the view, when you've got all that shit around, what's the point of sweeping the road, you know what I mean? But it's just the way it is over. It's very, very strange. Hello, doggy. Hello. It is a strange culture in that sense. Because yeah, you could say you would think when you came around it, nobody cares about the rubbish and that, but the fact that people are sweeping their little bit of road, and the guy next door to us, every day he gets a hose pipe out and washes the dust off the road. You know, talk about a pointless task given the state of the rest of the place. But it's our street now, and you've got some quite nice houses on our street, and it is a lot quieter than the other streets. So it is not necessarily a quiet subdivision, but it is in certain places. Now I can guarantee you a dog's going to make a liar of me now in a minute, or music's going to start blaring out. But yeah, anyway, I think I've said enough on this subject. I'd just be very interested to know what your views are if you've been living over here for a while. Do you think no one cares? Is it a knock country? You know, I'm not saying it's not. So I'm not disagreeing with the chap that said it at all. I'm just saying, you know, I'd never heard the expression a knock country, and it got me thinking. And I can certainly see why anyone would come to that conclusion, because it's certainly an easy conclusion to come to. And he may well be right. I might be fooling myself. Maybe people really don't care over here. I'm sure some won't, same as some don't in any country. But, yeah. What are your views? Do they care or don't they care? Let me know. Whack it in the comments. I'll be very interested to know. Anyway, and look what I just said. Ellen is out now. So I was just saying, Filipinos get up and they sweep the outside of the house. And there we have Ellen sweeping the outside of the house. We were just talking about that. I'd say we were just talking about up there. So there you go. I wasn't making it up. It's what they do. When you finish doing that, can you go up the end of the road and pick up all those boxes and rubbish and all that and take them to the dump?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't think I know. It was just it was just emphasising my point. That's oh, you didn't see that, but one of the stray dogs I feed just got excited to see me back. Anyway, yeah, there you go. That has just proven my point about the Philippines. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button. I'll be very interested to know what your views and observations are, and whether people care here or not. Whack it in the comments and I will reply. And there you go, you see. There's Greg with his monster dog, my neighbour. Anyway, I think we said a bit. I think you met him at the start of the video. Taking him out for a walk again. How dedicated is that? Anyway, if you like the video, smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed, it would be fantastic if you did. But whether you do or whether you don't, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, stay safe and be lucky.